Okay, great. So I'm going to get going here. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit from my dog training background, and then we'll dive into any topics you guys want to. So um, here is what I know best, and that's about dog behavior. So my goal is always to help people understand their dogs more, so they can, basically get them to do what they need to do, so everybody can live happily ever after. So what a positive reward learning. Um, using using teaching your dog what to do as opposed to what not to do is just more fun, and it's more effective. So if you've got a problem, you can change behavior. You can work on an issue with your dog. You can make the situation better. You don't really have to live with the status quo. So one of the things I know for sure, and it's proven science, is that rewarded behaviors will happen again. And so sometimes we inadvertently reward behaviors that we don't want. So we'll talk about that. It's a reward. I mean, a reward is like anything your dog likes, and your voice. You've always got your voice on you. So the happy tone, the soothing tone, our dogs love to hear. Sometimes balls and toys can be a huge reward for some dogs. Sometimes it's the petting and the attention that some dogs seek. They love, love, love. Going out the door is sometimes a reward. Throwing a ball is reward. And then there's food, using really great treats to reward your dog for something they've done that you want more of. So let's talk about a reward versus a bribe. Big difference here. So reward is delivered after the behavior happens. So the dog sat and you deliver a treat. But a bribe is presented before behavior. Now, I'm certainly not going to say that I've never bribed my dog. We all sometimes resort to a bribe, but basically we want to reward our dogs for the behavior that they've done. So it's Fido come, the dog comes to you, and then you deliver a treat. A bribe would be waving the big chicken strip in the air and going, chicken, chicken. That's a bribe. So if you can understand how dogs learn, I think it will help you be able to, help them get through issues and teach them what they need to learn to live in your world a little bit better. So they learn two ways. And the first way is by association. So this is really an emotional response. And humans learn that way also. The dogs they're forming these associations. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? They're not thinking the moral values of is it right or is it wrong. So these associations inform the decisions they make. So if your dog has made a bad association, say, towards other dogs, now they've made the decision to, bark or growl or something like that to, and to keep the other dogs away. Many of our dogs, they have created bad associations, and they have lots of good associations also. But we can turn those bad ones into, either at least a little bit better or neutral associations. And that can be really helpful when, turning something around. And that is, we do that by pairing a reward, something good that your dog thinks is good, to that bad association. Consequence. So really, basically the dog sits, he gets a treat. That's learning by consequence. But it's a little bit different. And here's an example. So let's say you have a child in your life and you take them out for ice cream because they got a good report card. And this could be a 5-year-old kid. But they'll know why they got that reward, even if it's several days later. They'll know why they got it. The child can pair those things together. I got the ice cream because I got the good report card. But dogs live in the moment. They can't connect those events over time. So it has to be an immediate consequence, hence why timing is important with teaching dogs things. So this is why it doesn't work to punish after the fact, because they're just not going to tie that together. So when you're teaching your dog something new or you're working on an issue, the reward must be delivered immediately after the behavior. So it's dangerous to pee in front of you because they've been yelled at. But it's safe if no one's looking. I just got to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go in this other room. So, they're not thinking I want to be evil. I want to be naughty. It's just that it's not safe to do it in front of you. So maybe dangerous to grab something off of the kitchen counter because they've been yelled at. Safe when you've taken a phone call and walked away and left the cheese on the counter. So, and that is just working. At learning by consequences, is it working or is it not? So dogs are thinking, if it's good for me, I'm just going to keep on doing that, and they're thinking that is not working for me. It's bad. I'm not going to do that, and so safe, dangerous, similar. And then, a lot of it with dogs, they're fairly self-centered, they're really thinking, is this working for me? Or is this not working for me? So how do we make a behavior like sometimes not work? Sometimes that can be a really effective way to handle the situation. So let's say the dog gets all it loves throwing playing fetch, and he barks at you to throw the ball. And that's just a demand bark. And it's fun, but you don't want it. So if you pick and throw that ball up, you will get more of that. You will get more of the barking. But if you put the ball down and you walk away, or you put the ball in your pocket and you walk away, would be better. Now the dog's going to go, bummer, that is not working for me. So then you try again, and you wait for 2 seconds. And the next time you wait for 4 seconds of quiet. And, you work up to 10 seconds of quiet and a sit. And now you throw the ball. And now you've taught your dog how to be calm in that kind of situation. Let's say you've got a dog who's crazy when you pick up the leash, and you pick up the leash and dog's bouncing off the walls. So what you do is you put the leash back and you sit down and play like you're reading a magazine for 30 seconds. And then you try again. And you wait for calm. And so you're rewarding the calm is what you're doing. You can catch and reward what you want, you will get more of. So, when your dog looks to you for permission to do something. I love check-ins, when they look back at you when they're off leash, either in a dog park or on a walk, good dog, you've got your voice on you, reward that. Seeing another dog and being quiet, that's a big one. And sometimes when I see my dogs be really quiet and they watch a dog walk by in an RV park, I pitch out some treats to them. Good dogs, because I want more of that. A dog waits at a door, the reward would be going through the door. So then, good dog. So, some things go wrong all the time. So I love having an interrupt sound. I use an AA. People have different sounds, and sometimes that can just interrupt something, rather than, it's better to do something calmly like that, as opposed save, if you need to say a big no, save those for bigger things. And so you're not running around all day saying no. Redirecting, really showing your dog something else to do. A great one is the find it game. I'm going to teach you how to do that, but that's pitching out a treat in the opposite direction. That can redirect a dog. Controlling the environment can really help us, especially in the RV world. Covering up windows. Sometimes the visual is too much for many dogs. Removing attention. That's always a good one. When a dog is jumping up, if you remove that attention and then you give it back to them as soon as they've got 4 on the floor or they're sitting, then now you're rewarding what you want, which is a dog that's either, not jumping on you or at least sitting. So, example of leash aggression and how it happens. And it starts with us humans, unfortunately. But there's a lot of anxiety with dogs on leashes, and I run into that a lot. And I even have some with my own dogs. So it happens, unfortunately happens from us. So this is how it goes usually. A dog is excited to see other dogs, or maybe they're nervous. And so the dog is now corrected by being yanked on the collar and leash. So let's say I'm walking a dog, he's super excited to see other dogs, but he's he's vocalizing, yipping, and so I'm like, no, and I'm yanking him back, and so now the dog starts feeling anxious because when he sees other dogs. And so this is truly learning by association. The association is bad things are happening to me from my owner when we see other dogs. So now the dog either has a negative association for all dogs all the time, could be just when they're on leash. Talk about how we can handle that differently. That is really, really important to address that in a better way. maybe as soon as you see the other dog, you get your dog's attention, and that might involve just putting that treat right on their nose and bringing that head around so they're looking at you and not at the other dog, and then delivering several tiny treats. Is your dog calmer? Can you proceed closer, or should you back off? Should you turn and walk away and get some distance? Already barking and just going crazy at another dog. Okay, so at that point, we're over threshold and we just must exit the situation. I mean, think about the kid in the grocery store going, just screaming. Oh, what can the mom do? Really not much. All she can really do is leave. So next time we're going to need to start further away. So, maybe you were 100 feet away and now you should start back 200 or 300 feet away and see if you can get your dog's attention and when the dog sees the other dogs. So that's just an example of one situation. Find it game, and it's really, really effective for turning a boring walk into a little more fun, or distracting your dog. So pitch a treat out just a few feet away. You've got your dog on leash. You just kind of drop a treat really close. Your dog gets the treat. They're usually going to turn around and look at you at that point. So you might say their name, or you might deliver another treat to them when they turn to you. And as they pitch the treat out, you're going to say, find it, and continue. So each time, you pitch that treat out and say, find it. And then when they look back at you, you deliver another treat. And the reason is they're giving you their attention. And that is what you want. That is the name of the game is getting the attention of your dog onto you, as opposed to what else out there they might be freaking out about. So let's talk about barking from the RV a little bit. So we'll just set this up. Say, we're going to put your dog on a thin leash in the RV. You're going to have a bowl of yummy and different treats ready to deliver. And maybe your dog is hungry, because sometimes if you just fed your dog, they're not going to be that interested. So your dog barks at somebody walking by, and you call your dog to you. Come on, Fido, come on, pup. And you deliver some tiny treats, and then you're going to grab that leash so they can't go back to that barking spot. And you keep your dog with you for a few seconds, and and your goal is going to be to get to where the dog doesn't even bark. He sees a dog walking by, and then, you call him to you immediately before he barks. And that would be something to work up towards. Other ideas, if your dog is just ball crazy, you could be saving the ball game for that and be throwing the ball in the opposite direction, in the RV or a house, away from the whatever they're barking at. Or a squeaky toy. Sometimes those are good for dogs. If your dog persists with the barking and won't stop, then they're going to need to lose their privileges from that spot, and they're going to have to maybe have a timeout. Could be a bathroom, bedroom, away from that spot for like a minute or so. So how about when you're sitting outside your RV with your dogs, and maybe they're in an X-pin or on tie-outs, and you sit with them, but let's say they want to bark at other people and dogs walking by. So have hungry dogs, get some treats ready. And each time the dog approaching, you can just throw out some treats on the ground, and continue, repeat each time somebody walks by. And you're going to probably have to have a way to get to them. If they continue to bark, then they're going to have to lose some privileges of being outside. But keep rewarding with treats and your voice if they can be quiet when the other dogs are walking by. So one of the biggest things to, sometimes fixing behavioral problems are meeting your dog's needs, and exercise and stimulation are part of that. So on a daily basis, dogs need, stimulation, exercise, mental stimulation, sometimes frisbee ball, running, walking, whatever you can do, going to dog parks. It's really important, because dogs with a lot of pent up energy will be the barkers and will have behavioral issues. So I think it's really important to keep your dogs exposed to different situations throughout their lifetime. You know, I try to take my dogs out to new and different things on a, you know, at least a monthly basis, you know, and always making it fun for your dog and you, because if it's the more it's fun for everybody, it's you know, it's more fun learning when we make it fun. And behaviors that are rewarded intermittently will stay strong. So if you're practicing that, let's say calling your dog to you, saying, Fido, come, you're rewarding, you know, 1 out of every 3 to 5 times, that's going to keep that behavior really tuned up. So remember that behaviors do need rewards here and there, and that's what will keep them working for you. So let's see, I've got talesfromtheroad.com as my website. And I've got a great fun Facebook group called Take Your Dog Along. I'd love to have you come join us. We have a lot of fun on that group. You still there, Georgianne?
I am.
Oh, good. So
go ahead and move into some of the questions that were posed for you. Some of these came in while you were trying to get everything straightened out earlier. And so they may have already answered some of them, but we're going to go ahead and go into this again. Oh, a quick question, if you won't mind repeating. Shar asked as a reminder, what is the name of your website again?
Tails, TAILS, fromtheroad.com.
Okay, awesome. All right. And so early on, Linda asked, what are some tips and tricks to deal with pet hair specifically in the RV?
I'll be honest, I have a Dyson stick vacuum, and I use it daily because not only does, and there, you know, there's some other ones. I think a Shark makes one. I mean, I know people use brooms and things, but I do find the vacuum to be very, very useful. And you know, and I can have it on a complete stick where, you know, I have like a regular vacuum, or it's more like a little tiny one where I literally have to vacuum my bed out sometimes when we're at the beach or something. So I do find some kind of smaller vacuum to be, mine is rechargeable. So even when I'm boondocking, I can use it. Absolutely love that thing.
Okay.
So I have a Dyson. I've had it for years, many years, before I even started RVing. It's a stick, rechargeable, smaller vacuum.
That's awesome. Also, something that we'd meant that a few people had mentioned is daily brushing. Also, I think the other suggestion was vacuuming every day or every other day from Kelly. And so, okay, so another question then for you, going to thinking about behavioral concerns. Kate has asked, what kind of positive reinforcement tips do you have for barking? For example, it sounds like her dogs bark whenever they're told to leave something. They talk back.
They talk back when they're told to leave something.
The way that she asked it, she says she wants her pups to stop barking once we tell them to leave it.
I would stand there and look at this. I'm not sure what the situation is, you know, if it's outside, inside, but I would stand and look at the sky. I would not look at the dogs, and I would wait. I would count to myself 1, 2, you know, trying to get 1, 2 of quiet. And then as soon as those dogs are not barking, yes, treat.
Okay.
So I would have that treat in your hand. So the key is, in this situation, I'm not sure what's going on. The dog is barking. Maybe it's some kind of a demand barking.
Okay.
But look away. Look away from the dog.
She clarified, after I asked you, she added a little comment to clarify. She said she wants them to bark to alarm them, but then to stop after they're told to leave it.
Oh, I see. Leave it is a quiet command. Okay. So it might even be, you might even in that situation have to put the treat on their nose, and waiting for that quiet. and then deliver that treat as soon as, you know, the dog can be quiet. That may have to be the starting point of that. Because if I see, so she's got the dog barking, she says quiet, and there's no quiet. You also might, you know, sometimes putting the bark on cue can really be helpful. That's a little bit different topic, but that is, the dog barks, and first of all, you get your dog to bark. So maybe you do a fake knock on the door. Dog barks. You say your word, wolf, bark, whatever, and then you stand there and look at the ceiling. And as soon as they're quiet, you say your quiet word. But for her, it's leave it, and then treat. Okay. So I would put that on cue first, because I don't think they know what leave it means.
Okay.
They're not doing it.
Another question related to barking. Jeff has asked, do you have ideas to stop a dog from barking when you're not there? It sounds like you went over this earlier with separation anxiety, but do you have any additional advice?
Right. So, I mean, that is a bigger topic. And one of the things is, it's always really important to have the dogs not be barking, at least when you're there, because, I mean, if they're doing that when you're there, they're certainly going to do it when you're not there. So make sure they're not reacting to things when you're there. As far as when you're not there, you're going to have to, first of all, probably work on closing things up so they can't see things. It can be a bigger issue sometimes, because it can be a separation anxiety issue, which is a different issue. So you could do some things about play like you leave, and, you know, close things up and see, and come back real quickly if they bark, and ask them to be quiet, leave again. So I will say it is hard.
So we've got several related to finding RV park, or either dog parks that don't restrict breeds, or RV parks that don't restrict breeds, finding dog parks along the road and that sort of thing. What kind of advice do you have for that?
Finding dog parks along the road. There's a great app. It's called Dog Go. The icon is a dog in a car. Help you find dog parks everywhere.
Can you repeat the name of the app one more time?
Dog Goes.
Okay.
GOES.
Awesome. It cut out a little bit when you said it the first time, so I want to make sure everybody heard you well.
You know, I don't have a suggestion on that, other than the park and telling them about your dogs. There is no, you know, other than calling the parks up directly and asking. And I highly suggest telling them about dogs. If you've trained them up some, the best way to handle it.
Okay. All right. So Denise has also asked, what kinds of things can you do to keep your dog active when you live in an RV?
Question. Yeah. So I travel full time in my RV, and I work. So, you know, it's getting up in the morning and walking. Sometimes we'll walk a neighborhood nearby. I also have a bicycle set up, and because I have a Jack Russell who's very active, so I can have my dog ride me on the bicycle. I find dog park. I find trails, sometimes regular parks, and we will walk in on leash. Sometimes kind of dirt roads, those types of places. They're kind of, those are all parts of our day.
Denise, I'm sorry, not Denise. Carol had asked about some suggestions for keeping her dog mentally exercised. Do you have any advice on that? She's mentioned, for example, scent work, puzzle games for feeding, trick training, and that sort of thing. Do you have any other suggestions?
You know, it depends on your setup, but I mean, you can hide treats around your RV, stuffed in cushions, little places around your RV or your house. There, obviously the puzzles are great. Using food, Kongs are an easy toy that you can stuff. I do have a couple of toys that I put in treats that keep my dogs Sometimes I need that. Chewing on my dogs eat raw bones, so they'll chew on raw bones, and some that'll keep them busy for an hour sometimes. But yeah, and sometimes dropping into a local trainer and seeing what's available in your area, and if you can get in for a one session class and teaching your dogs. Anytime you're teaching your dog something new, um, you're they're they're getting tired. So just like us, when we're in school, we get tired too. For example, yesterday I went to a dog park. There were some dogs there at first, but then everybody left. So I just started kind of doing some silly things with my dogs, like making them stay in one spot and then calling from the other side of the park. And we worked on some little tricks that we do, spins and jumps, and so I just made some fun out of nothing, just working on a few things in a nice little park.
Nice. It sounds like they probably enjoyed it. So thinking about mobility, Shar had pointed out, like, how do you get an older dog in and out of the RV when there are arthritis issues? It sounds like she has a 55-pound dog, and they have a ramp, but maybe they're still having some problems with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the ramps are definitely. I actually saw a really nice RV set up with a ramp and gates or fencing set up. They have an older big dog. I mean, other than the ramp, I'm not sure what else you can do. I mean, they need a ramp, and then they need to get inside and get onto a bed. Um, you said that they did have a ramp, or
Yes, she said that it sounds like they
in the
do have a
question?
ramp for her. She was just asking if you had any additional suggestions.
I
But
mean,
it
I
sounds like a
don't.
ramp
I
is the
mean,
best way to
what?
go.
Right. I mean, I'm not sure what else you can do to get them in the RV, but one of the things I will say that for older dogs, what's best for them is short, multiple walks throughout the day. So,
Okay.
way better than a longer one walk. Yeah.
Okay. So Jeff had asked, and this is actually a question one of my dogs has to deal with too. What do you do for a dog who suffers from motion sickness?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. A lot of times it happens with puppies, and then as the dog gets older, it's hard to say if it's really motion sickness or if it's that association because they remember the motion sickness. So it, it's hard. I'm not sure if you can really tell which it is.
Yeah.
I would be, I think being in the back of a vehicle in a crate would be really hard in motion sickness. So sometimes trying to get them to more the middle of the vehicle. Um, I personally would be seeking out some more natural ways. There might be some pressure points, maybe talking to a holistic vet. I mean, because I think a regular vet is just going to be prescribing more of like a Dramamine type thing. Um, I'm not sure that's really going to solve your issue. So, yeah, I really haven't. Be honest, I haven't dealt with that enough. I guess my first example or advice would be to find a vet, American uh, AHVMA, American Holistic Vet Medical Association. I think .org, AHVMA.org is a good place to start, to find a vet that might, and even you might be able to find some pressure points or even an acupuncture needle spot that might help you. So
Okay.
the
Ah,
other thing, and just a few other ideas would be some calming, herbal tablets. There's, if you go into an independent store, you would be able to find something like that.
yeah, we use some of that for one of our dogs that has very deeply ingrained separation anxiety, and it seems to help her. I think it's
Uh,
called thiamine, I think, or something along those lines.
right. Yeah. And
Um,
that is in some of the calming tabs. Yes, absolutely.
and so Al has asked how to deal with the dog that's suddenly become protective or possessive of the RV, and the space around it, both towards other humans as well as other animals.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry you have that problem, Al. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty big training topic. I would say positive trainer, go to apdt.com and see if you could have a trainer to work with you. That is a very serious issue. I would be definitely managing it, which means not letting your dog perform that. that behavior is anytime when dogs get to perform behaviors that are undesirable or they're just downright bad. With guarding is a tough one. Then it'll happen more generally. Guarding is an innate behavior. It comes with the dog package. It's normal. Some dogs will do it more than others. So, yeah, I think that, Al, you're going to need to get somebody to work with you on that one.
And it sounds like too that it might be a situation where, for some ongoing support, he could also look into either joining your website or joining your Facebook group to have more of a community sense. So as he's going through that's a very emotionally stressful thing for the human as well. Watching your dog get that upset.
It truly is.
So
my heart goes out to him for that. Yeah.
We also have a couple of questions from both Linda and Laura about a raw diet while living in an RV. Linda's asked if you have any advice for it, and Laura asked if you have a freezer recommendation for someone who's doing raw or homemade diets for their pets.
Right. Well, I do feed my dogs raw food. I also cook for them. I just made a big old pot of Instapot food for them this week. So, but I use Sojo's. It's a freeze-dried raw food. And there are a few others out there that also have freeze-dried food. So that is one option. That makes it easy. That's what you're usually doing with that is adding water. I do buy frozen raw, but like you say, there is
limited
the
space.
freezer space. Yeah, so I do, like when I leave certain areas, my freezer will be full of raw food and bones for my dogs and not much of my stuff in there. So you can get shipments from Chewy.com, 2-day shipments, and they will ship raw food. I generally hit independent stores when I'm in an area and stock up as much as I can. But the freeze-dried gets me by, and then what I do is I actually buy more meat from the grocery stores and will add it raw to that mix. So that's what I do.
Al has asked to follow up on that. He's interested to hear your thoughts about how much food you carry with you. He's also a full-timer. And then what you do, it sounds like you, as far as the raw diet goes, you've already answered this part of the question, but in general, how do you go about obtaining decent food on the road?
Right. So finding, I'm an independent store shopper. That's, I've had my own businesses, so I like shopping at independent stores. So, like, for example, I was in Tucson for the Escapade in March and this past month. And so I did find a store there. Actually, there's a local chain there called Pet Club. And I stocked up on a bunch of freeze-dried food and some raw frozen and some bones. So sometimes you can find butchers that will cut up bones and grind meat for you. Anytime you're in that type of area. Now I'm in Kingman, Arizona. I don't think there's even a independent store here. So now I do, if you've got big dogs, you're going to have to figure out how long you can go. I mean, it's going to be tougher with big dogs, I will say. I would highly recommend, getting into, if you want to do raw, getting a freeze-dried food that you can supplement with. And you can supplement by going to a regular grocery store.
Okay, sounds really great. So Kelly has asked, are raw soup bones okay, or should she boil them first?
You definitely should give your dogs only raw bones, never cooked. So that is
Cooked makes it easier for them to break into shards, correct?
That's correct. I mean, okay. any bones that are cooked, chicken or any kind, will be, if they're cooked, they're brittle, and that's when that will be trouble for your dog. If they're raw, your dog can eat a whole chicken neck or a chicken wing, and they get all that great connective tissue. Now, I will say this, I feed my dogs everything and anything, but they eat something different every meal. So if your dog is just eating kibble and then you give them something different, then they're not going to have the gut flora to work with that. So I want to say proceed cautiously with that. So for those of us who are feeding raw, feeding our things, we can, because the dogs are eating different things. So my point is, if you're feeding just kibble, you might start adding in some different things before you just start giving your dog a raw chicken neck.
That's really great advice. Even for my two monsters, even just basic diet changes sometimes cause some issues, especially if you go from,
Right.
like you said, kibble to raw. But thinking
Right.
about people like me who maybe aren't quite yet in an RV but are looking to go RVing, or people who are already in an RV but don't have a pet, what advice do you have for testing your animal, like your current pet, to see if they would actually be well suited to RVing, or if you're someone who's RVing and decides you want a companion? What do you have any advice for example, testing or finding a dog that would do well in that environment?
Yeah, I think the first step would be, how does the dog do in the car? And does your dog associate the car, or does that dog associate? Is the dog willingly to go in the car? If the dog is absolutely trembling in the car, which happens, then I don't think the RV is going to be much better. The other thing is finding, a dog that has a lot of noise phobia, a lot of, gets really nervous with a lot of noises, is probably going to have a tougher time in the RV. One of my dogs actually does get nervous when we are rolling down the road, because things will fall in the RV. And so my dogs generally stay in one spot. They don't move. But they do, they get nervous when something falls and makes a noise. So finding, if you are looking to see if your dog, is going to be appropriate, for the RV world, is baby steps. Sometimes just going into an RV, if you could go to an RV show and take your dog, sometimes you can, or just an RV lot, and just have your dog, go into an RV on leash and just get treats and then walk out. That would be a great way to start out.
That's really smart advice. I hadn't even thought about that personally, taking a dog to an RV dealership. And I know even our vet suggests the same kind of thing that you just did. If there's any kind of hesitation or nervousness about going into a building or going into an RV, like you said, take treats, and once they're successfully inside, give them a treat and walk right back out.
Yeah,
That's how we got them used to going to the vet.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, well, it looks like those are all the questions that we have from attendees. I hope you've gotten your questions answered and have learned lots of great things for keeping your dogs happy and healthy on the road. At this point, Juliet, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks everybody for coming, and I apologize. I don't know, there must have been a lack of bandwidth today. Not a great Verizon signal here, and sometimes that is the life of full-time RVing. Is just doesn't. You think it's going to be okay with the internet service, and it's not. So I apologize for the technical difficulties we have, but thanks for being here.
Well, thank you again so much, Juliet, for being here with us and for your patience in dealing with all of the issues you've had to deal with tonight. Again, for those of you guys who don't know, Juliet has organized the group Tales from the Road, the website Tales from the Road, and then also the Facebook group Take Your Dog Along. So don't forget that if you have some more questions or just want to get a stronger community of RVing dog lovers like yourself, go ahead and check out her groups and her website and connect with the community. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging in there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.